Appearance on Dion's Daily Dose does not imply endorsement from or by any candidate or guest. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by Dion Bergeron or Dion's Daily Dose are his own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of any guest. Material and information presented is for general information purposes only. The Dion's Daily Dose name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose.
Ladies and gentlemen, to Dion's Daily Dose special episode where I answer your questions. I'm going to bring Liz on here. I don't know if you guys can see that. That's totally cute, but minimize that. Bring her on here and ta-da.
Hello.
Thank you, baby. How are you?
I feel like I just saw you. Yeah. Hey.
Yeah, right. I would like to show off my new polo that I got, and of course we have the campaign shirts. I absolutely love this shirt. I actually want to share with everyone where I got it. They are a good conservative company that provides all kinds of stuff. I got some flags for the truck with my logo on it. I got some magnets. They're absolutely awesome. So at the end of the show, after I'm gonna have to run out to the car and grab the business cards because I once again forgot to bring them inside. But that I need to split them up between the vehicles because I needed one the other day. But enough of that. About that, we'll get to that later. As everyone thinks, John voted absentee for me. Thank you, John. I truly appreciate that. Thank you very much. We're trying to get the word out. But we asked you guys to send in questions for me, and they could be about me personally, stances, anything. There were a number of questions that were sent in, and then Liz won't tell me what they are, but she's going to read them, and then I'll answer them for you. And, of course, if anybody wants to hop on and ask a question during the live, they can. So without further ado, by all means.
Well, we had some questions that just not safe for work. And so I had to weed them out. They just weren't appropriate. They had nothing to do with anything or anyone's business. So I compiled them into a list. I don't think we're going to get through all of them because there were a lot, but I kind of divided them into personal and political. So I think I'm going to kind of jump, hit you with a personal, hit you with a political, mix it up a little bit. Okay. Here is personal question number 1. Oh, if I can find this. Okay. What is your favorite sport?
Okay. My favorite sport. Now, we're having a little bit of an echo on your end, so maybe when I'm talking, hit mute on your mic. Maybe I don't know if that'll work because I don't know if it's your mic picking it up. Try that. We tried to get some headphones going before we started, but we didn't have time to get them working right. They didn't just pop up. So, I used to watch football. I actually played football in high school for a little bit. I used to watch football before they got crazy. But I don't know if you consider chess a sport. I like chess. I like to play chess. No, chess isn't a sport. Probably football. Okay, so Jack's saying the echo was back, but it seems to be better now that you've muted the mic. So if I had to choose, I would say football. Go ahead.
Okay, unmute myself. All right, here's a political question.
Okay.
What committees would you push to be seated on when you're elected state rep?
Okay, great question. So I would like to be on the Crime and Justice Committee, as well as the Roads and Transportation. I think that my experience and skill set would be best for both of those. I was looking. I wouldn't be opposed to serving on any committees. But I think the three top ones for me are roads and transportation, criminal justice, slash crime, and probably science and technology. I'm very interested in advancing the technology, especially here in Indiana. I'd like some more technologically advanced companies to come in and preferably make their home in District 9. I think we have the ideal location for it. I've talked about that before.
All right. What's the one thing that you like about Indiana and Michigan City? So it was two questions rolled into one.
Okay. The one thing, I mean, I can name a bunch of things, but let's keep my favorite things. My favorite thing about Indiana is how you can go from a very urban area to a very rural area in no time at all. I mean, you leave Michigan City, it's like 7 miles to LaPorte. In between Michigan City and LaPorte, it's rural living, it's county living. Despite the fact that we're right in Northwest Indiana, it's large urban environment. I've always been in love with that. Like, for example, when I lived there, I lived in Mobile for a short time. Mobile is very, very urban. There is no, like, you got to get well out of the city before it kind of goes to a more, rural environment. Same with Chicago, obviously. You look at Chicago, it's a sprawling metropolitan area. Indiana, you can have that tiny town feel, but still be, large enough. As far as Michigan's proximity to the lake, I love the people. It is, you just walk outside, especially in the spring and summer, and you can smell the air off the lake. And the people they're not all, I guess, uppity about it, for lack of a better term. We have a fantastic location, but we're not like, we're the best. I mean, obviously you're the best, but go ahead. I'm just being silly.
Okay, next question. In North Carolina, there was a county that had a car emission program similar to Lake and Porter County that was able to end the program. Would you look into how they did it for the citizens of Lake and Porter counties? Which means, basically summarize it, are you in favor of keeping emissions testing going, or do you want to end it?
Okay. I have been, let me tell you, the emissions testing is targeted towards the poor. It adversely affects the poor. People who have money, they have money for newer cars. When I was growing up, Louisiana, where I lived, they had emission testing because when I first got my license, I lived there for a short time. We had to pass emissions testing. And I had a car that was safe and good, but it couldn't pass emissions testing, and it would have cost like $1,500. Now this is, in 1990, whatever, and it would have it cost me more than I paid for the car to get it ready. Look, I'm all for good air quality, but companies and other countries do far more damage to the air and the environment than someone's 20-year-old beater. I am absolutely for stopping that on a widespread level, not to mention the fact that it adversely affects these two counties, whereas LaPorte doesn't have it. Emissions testing either needs to be all or nothing. I'm in favor of nothing. Companies pollute far more than individual automobiles do, and I just don't think it's a good. Again, it adversely affects those who cannot afford to fix it.
Right. I'm from Lake County, and having your car emission tested was like the worst experience ever. You just stand there and you're racked. You feel like you're going to throw up, hoping your car passes. If it doesn't pass, you can't get, some people may not know this, but if your car doesn't pass emissions, you don't get to renew your license. So now, I was a single mom driving whatever car I could get my hand on. And if it didn't pass emissions, you either had to sell it and then be without a car, or you couldn't plate your car and now you're running around on expired plates.
Mm-hmm.
Or what happens a lot is people know someone in a county that doesn't require emissions testing, like LaPorte, and they just register their car there, and then that's it. They bypass the whole system. So I think if we can't eliminate it, we need to revamp it. All right. Where is your favorite place to get coffee? Or what is your favorite kind of coffee? It was kind of vague.
Okay. Don't forget to mute. There you go. Okay. So I actually go to B Coffee here in Michigan City. I found that the coffee from these coffee joints, I generally don't like it that much. Just because I like flavored coffee, but I don't like frappuccinos and stuff like that much. But their hot chocolate, I get the Cafe Carmelo, and it is amazing. Rich, creamy, really, really good. That's where I
coffee. Answer the coffee question. That's hot chocolate.
Okay, fine. As far as coffee goes, I get my own coffee, and I get the Highland Grog from Maple City Roasters, and it is so good. It's got that slight butterscotch taste without being overwhelmingly sweet. It's still a nice, robust, good coffee, but it's got a little bit of flavor to it.
All right. I've got a question that you kind of answered this at League of Women Voters Forum, but not everybody watched it. Mm-hmm. So, do you support California's new law that caps the amount of days that an inmate can be in solitary confinement?
Okay. So I would have to look at the exact law. I read it a little bit about it. I did read. I think the issue isn't necessarily with solitary confinement in and of itself. It does have its purpose. The issue comes in with a very broad definition of solitary confinement. For example, at Indiana State Prison, there are several areas that, based on the vagueness of the law, can be considered solitary confinement, but they're not. They're administrative seg. There is interaction. They're not in a tiny little room for 24 hours a day, 23 hours a day, whatever. They can communicate with people next door in their cells, yell at the officers, etc. But there are areas, such as above the hospital, that is a tiny cell that has no bed, no nothing. That, I believe, is what the law is directed at. And yes, those should be used very sparingly and for extreme circumstances only.
All right. So a couple people have asked, how did we meet? Which I know we've talked about before. How long did we date before we got married? Those kind of fishing in through the, no, that's not appropriate question. So how did we meet? How long did we date before we got married? When did we get married? So if you want to answer that, or if you want to just be like, hey, go through my library of videos and we'll answer it. But it's up to you.
No, I'm not going to make everyone. I'm not going to make everyone dig through it. There's a lot of hours of video there. I don't expect you to watch them all. But I will say, so my wife and I both worked at Indiana State Prison. We were both correctional officers. We stood the first time we met. I was just out of a toxic relationship. And she had asked me, you know what, I'm going to let her tell the story because she does so much better than I do on it.
Because I was traumatized. So he was brand new. You go through training and then you get put onto your shift. And at the time that we worked there, and I still believe it's going on, you worked either 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. They had a couple Monday through Friday jobs, but for the most part, that's what you did. And it was probably 3:30 in the morning. Everyone's tired, everyone's loopy, and a female and a male officer gets sent up to basically, as other officers, other staff are coming through in the morning, you're there, a female's there to search and pat down the female and vice versa. And so here's a new guy fresh out of training. So, you try to make conversation to stay awake at 3:30 in the morning because you're tired. And you know, hey, what's your name? How long have you been here? Blah blah blah. Do you have kids? He talked about his kids. Are you married? And he let out this maniacal laugh. And I was like, oh, okay, okay. Well, I'm gonna go in the back, and if any women come through, just give me a call. I'll be over here. Bye. And I was like, this dude, okay, sure. And then we would see each other, but not really. Like, we ran in the same social circle. So if people went out to breakfast, he'd be there, I'd be there. But it wasn't anything like, that's the one I'm going to marry. It was just, there he is. I left and came back. He got put on one of those snazzy, fancy 5 and 2 Monday through Friday. And I met him because I was in the hospital working, and I had never worked in the hospital, and I was lost. I was in the weeds. I was overwhelmed. He was my lunch relief, and I was like, oh, thank God, who's this person coming to relieve me? It was him. We got stuck in the dining room together a lot. I met a guy online that he ended up knowing, and I said, oh, do you know this guy? And he's like, oh God, please don't date him. So he saved me a lot of heartache. We started talking, and we just became better friends. And then better friends grew into this, him having to grab me by like my shoulder and be like, I like you like a girlfriend, because he got out of a toxic relationship. I had been in a not healthy relationship. So my view of how a man is supposed to show a woman that they're interested and that they care for him was skewed. So I couldn't recognize the actual gentlemanly, not old fashioned, but the nice, healthy way of a guy showing interest. So he had like grab me and be like, I like you. And I was like, oh, okay. And then we started dating, and then we got engaged, and I won't tell the story of the engagement. And we got married, and here we are, almost 13. In March will be 13 years. So 15 years. We dated for like 2 years before we got married. Combined our families, our kids together. We have 5 children. Nah, I can't say children. Like 3 of them are adults. So we have 3 adult children, 2 who think they're adults, who think they're older than us, children, and then a bunch of cats and a dog and some rodents and this. So here we are.
I don't claim the rodents, though, the oldest boys, and but the dogs and cats. Well,
Listen,
the dog.
you don't claim them, but okay, this is Mr. I don't like, I don't like a cat. I don't like a dog if he's mad at him. But this is also Mr. Oh, let me hold him. Oh, how are you doing? Talking all sweet to the guinea pigs and the chinchilla. So don't ever let him fool you. Like, you throw a cat, you throw a black kitten, like a black kitten around him, he's like, I want all the kittens. So, no, you bring a puppy or a kitten around him, and he's a big soft. And guinea pigs. So, all right, let me go to the next question.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Here's a long one. You ready?
Yep.
Since Democrats cannot get a cap and trade program nationally, they created a joint state program. It includes 12 states and is called the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. Would you support Indiana creating a program similar to this, or joining the other 12 states?
I would have to look into it. In general, I'm very cautious of things like the cap and trade program and emissions programs, anything that caps industries on what they're able to do as far as this. Not because I don't care about the environment. One thing that I've found, though, is we tend to over legislate doing things like that. I'm not opposed to putting some sort of limit on what a company can or cannot do. Ecologically, we have to have that. That's one thing that government is required for, because we've seen what happens in the past when just do what they want. They're profit driven. They're going to do whatever they can to make money. However, when we're talking about things like climate change and greenhouse gas caps and cap and trade programs, we forget that the number one offenders, the number one destroyers, are foreign countries that we have no way of getting into the programs. They refuse. China, India, these countries are astronomical levels of pollution compared to us. Astronomical. Until and unless we can get them to rein in and follow along. I'm not going to over legislate our companies out of business. And then we have a situation where China, India are importing things that we should be producing here in this country.
Okay. All right. I'm probably going to butcher this question. It's a personal question. It came in from a very weird source. So I don't know if the name is even right. Okay. Would you rather be a bard, paladin, or warrior? And what is your favorite campaign to play? Okay. So I think I know what this is talking about. In fact, I do. But but I'm gonna let you take it because you can flex your nerd muscle.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I need to flex my nerd muscle. Anyone who's watched me knows I'm a big dork. But so out of the three listed, I would probably say a bard to play. If I'm given those three options, I would play a bard. Out of paladin, bard, warrior, I would play a bard because they're very charisma based. They talk their way into and out of things a lot. My favorite campaign setting is Forgotten Realms. And mainly because I'm so familiar with it. It's been around for a very long time. I'm familiar with all of the lore with it. I played D&D when I was very, very young. About 12 years old, I started playing. I played D&D through the big scare of the 90s where anything D&D was demonic. All of that. So I'm very familiar with it. I used to have a room in an apartment that I had that was covered with all the maps from Forgotten Realms, Waterdeep, Faerun, all that. So yes, I'm a big nerd. I've had dice collections that were worth more than my car. It's silly, absolutely silly. I've grown since then. I don't have nearly so many dice. There you go.
No, but I'm starting to lose my kitchen table to a current campaign that is going on. But yeah, we tried. I can't play with you. I used to play. I didn't play D&D. I played Vampire the Masquerade, and I tried to get back in it. But every time I look at you, I'm like, you're not your character. You're my husband. How dare you do that to me? So we're not compatible in playing together. But I think that if you look at any of those games like D&D or Magic or all of that, when you take the game itself out of it, you look at people who have to think ahead, have to plan, have to use resources wisely, have to use, you're given 30 points for your personality. Where are you going to put that? What if you are a bard, and a bard is like the singer, the life of the party? What are they going to need? It definitely teaches you strategic planning and thinking on your feet and being creative. And that's what a state rep is, because I'm so tired of hearing, and a mailer came out and your incumbent was like, oh, there's nothing we can't do. We can't legislate that to fix it. Well, okay, that's true. You can't, but you can get in on the ground floor. You can come into the communities and you can come together and bring people together and start thinking out of the box. I have seen you be able to think out of the box and research and find solutions. I think because you've been doing this for 80 years and you've been playing D&D for forever. So I think it's definitely, some people are it's controversial. Take all that element out and you have someone who plays a game that takes more than just a day, who's continuously having to think a couple steps ahead and use resources and interact with other people to get along and get things done. So I think that there is a lot of good. People may have a bad misconception of the game, but look at what's involved in the game. So, all right. Well, okay. Yeah.
Before you move on, mute.
Oh, sorry. I was drinking coffee.
That's okay. I just want to say that D&D, actually playing D&D, I learned so much about thinking on my feet and critically thinking and thinking outside the box. Basic math, it made learning basic math a necessity, and flexing the skills of basic math. There's a meme that if you play D&D, I'm sure you've seen it, and it's this this little studious boy who says, "This isn't Dungeons and Dragons. This is math." And it's true. It does make you flex those muscles in order to speed the game along. But more importantly, especially if you have a good DM who really brings the story alive, it helps you think outside the box. It helps you think of alternative solutions, resource management. There are tons of things that I learned playing the game and was able to translate that to real life. And no, none of it was riding a dragon, unfortunately, although I think that would be awesome. Moving on.
I don't know. The waste, if you brought dragons in, the waste management, there'd be a whole problem for that. And then your incumbent would be like, I'm pro dragon. We have to figure out a way to clean the environment. So maybe dragon travel is not good for the environment. All right. Here's a question. Okay. This person said, when I was attending college, so them, not me, we heard about how Indiana used to have an education program for people who were in prison. They were able to get a high school diploma, a GED, or college credits while serving time. I remember this. I actually worked at the prison when this was going on. Would you support bringing this back, or would you not, or what do you think?
Okay, so I want to be very clear on this. I support programs that reduce recidivism. Recidivism is when someone is released from prison, they reoffend, and they return. I'm all for effective and economical ways to reduce that. Now, if you have someone who's serving life in prison, they're never getting out, there is absolutely no reason that you, the taxpayer, should have to pay for their education. It makes no sense. However, the cost of, for example, housing, feeding, all the medical, all the things that go into housing someone who is in prison is generally significantly significantly higher for that cost than it is to enact programs to keep them out of prison. One of the problems that we have right now is people that offend, they go to prison or go to jail. There are very few programs, effective programs, that we're able to utilize to reach out to them and say, okay, due to poverty, this person is committing petty theft, or due to the circumstances, whether it's addiction, whatever, they're committing the crimes. They're going to continue that cycle when they're released. Whenever their sentence is up, they're going to go out. And if we don't give them the means and the ability to go out and become a better member of society, then nothing has changed. All they've done is spend a few years away and go to crew camp, which is jail and prison. That's what happens. They become better criminals. We need to change that. There are ways to do that don't affect you, financially. We're not talking about increasing taxes. There's money in the budget there. It just needs to be shifted.
Well, I think, what about instead of focusing on college? Because one of the arguments was, if I'm in prison, even if you do directly 50% of the time, if I'm in prison for 50 years, that's 25 years, I'm not getting out. Let's say they went to prison in 2000, they're not getting out till 2025. How much of a value does a college education have versus really pushing those trade programs? Because in the prison, if you looked at the jobs that didn't require you to know how to be a tradesperson, you were getting probably 5-10 cents an hour. The rate of pay is not minimum wage in the prison. At least it wasn't when we were there. But if you had the skills and you were a plumber, or you worked in the manufacturing area, or the digital license plate job, digital license plate manufacturing, you were paid, and it doesn't sound like a lot, except for the license plate guys, you were paid like $1 an hour or $5 a day, which doesn't sound like anything, but compare that to 5 cents an hour. What about bringing more? We need more trades programs back across the board. What about really pushing for the trades program? That way they're coming out and saying, sure, I did 10 years in prison for attempted murder, but now I can weld. Now I can be a carpenter or a bricklayer. What do you think about pushing trades in prison versus college?
Oh, I'm wholeheartedly in favor of it. I mean, I think trades overall, be it at the high school level and, post high school level, or in a correctional environment, trades were desperately in need of qualified, good tradespeople. The majority of people that, especially single offenses, right? They go to prison, they made a mistake, one bad night, something horrible happened. Those people can easily learn a trade in order to keep them out of the system moving forward. Plumbers, electricians, there's the list goes on, welding. These are all things that we could easily fold into already existing programs in the prison.
Okay, this one came in today, and it's just an opinion. How do you feel about the Biden administration publicly stating that trans females, I'm sorry, so that is biological males that say, I need to be a female, having to register or be drafted into the military? Do you think that that shows that the Biden administration doesn't really care about trans people? That's a heck of a question.
That's exactly what I think. We've seen an administration that has gone out of their way to pander to certain elements of the population. As I've stated, I have family members who are part of the LGBTQ plus community. It's nobody's business who these people are, but I love them. I care about them, and I treat them exactly the same as I treat other family members. It doesn't matter to me what their personal choices are. The administration, on the other hand, seems to believe that if you tell people something, your actions don't matter. As long as you tell them we have your back, you can do whatever you want. I'm much more in favor of actions speak louder than the action that the administration took was to tell them it doesn't really matter what you think. We're going to do what we want regardless.
And I think we have several family members, both together and separately, that are part of the LGBTQ and that are trans. We just found out one of our family members most recently came as trans. And I think the hardest time you had was with their new name. You didn't like their new name, and you start tossing out names like you're a grandpa trying to name a grandchild. Other than that, there was no, oh my gosh, I can't talk to you, I can't look at you, I can't be with you. It was much more like, I think you should change your name to this. I don't like that. I'm like, okay, grandpa, not really grandpa, but save that for the grandchildren. I was very appalled that when you were, if a lot of people don't know, Dion was on Sound Off Monday, which is, for those who are not in the area, 96.7 out of LaPorte. They're a country station, and an individual, he is the pastor of State Street Church in LaPorte, does a radio show every Monday, every Friday. He, I believe, tries to remain as impartial as he can. I think he's human, so sometimes impartiality gets dropped. Yeah. But I think he does a good job at trying to be impartial. Some questions came in, and your opponent was asked about bringing guns for teachers into the school, and actually came out and said, well, I'm paraphrasing here, you'd have to actually pull the audio. It's on their Facebook page. If you give a teacher a gun and they're having a bad day, or little Johnny makes them bad, they're going to shoot them. And I'm sitting there going, are you kidding me? And I hear from behind this wall is my oldest son's bedroom. I hear him go, what? And he comes running in. He's like, did she just say that teachers will shoot the kids if they make the kids mad? Well, what offended me, not about the guns, I was offended because I have teachers in my family. I worked in the education system for a short period of time. They would never, ever, ever shoot their students. That's ridiculous. When the issue came to transgender athletes / protecting them from discrimination, she made a remark along the lines of, well, they hormone test the athletes, and if the girl has too much testosterone, then she can't play because she's a man. Paraphrasing. As someone who deals with PCOS, 1 in 4 women do, so everybody knows someone, sometimes more. With PCOS comes a multiple of things. I actually believe there's 4 different types, but whatever. It's also a hormone imbalance. So you have women who have more testosterone than women should. Creates the trademark body hair, facial hair struggle that a lot of women with PCOS deal with, including me, to be honest. Now I'm a man. because maybe my hormones are off. It's not my skeletal, it's not my muscular, it's not who I am, because my hormones are off. Well, now I'm not a woman. It was just someone who's completely out of touch with why we're biologically different and what makes a woman, a man, why you can't have male athletes because of biological muscular differences. But also, hey, if you have PCOS or not, and you have a little bit more testosterone in your system, well, welcome to manhood. I guess go get your man card. It just shows cluelessness, out of touch, and the fact that she's being questioned to run on a campaign that she wasn't prepared for. That's my little thing. How do you feel about what she said about the teachers and about the hormones?
Well, as far as the teachers are a very valuable resource. I've had family that were teachers. The thought of a teacher doing anything to harm a student is absolutely insane. But the issue there that they were talking about is if we had a bill that allowed properly properly trained teachers to be armed, would you vote in favor of it? The short answer is yes, but I have a better solution. And everywhere is different. Personally, I'd like to look into veterans and hiring them to basically be the defense for our schools. We spend tons of money on the administration of schools. Surely there's some money. It's over 60% of the Indiana budget goes to schools. So I'm sure the money's there. That said, when she launched into basically your hormones determine the only thing that kept going through my head was, so wait a minute, a woman that has a little bit of extra hair because they have lower estrogen or higher testosterone aren't women? It's offensive, frankly, to think that any of that is something someone actually thinks. I mean, whether it's simply tossed out there for campaign purposes or pandering purposes, or whether she actually believes it, either way is equally horrifying.
Exactly. That is not what makes hormones do not make a man or a woman. Just like any man who has low testosterone, they are still a man. Any woman that has higher testosterone is still a woman. It to me struck me as a deflection because I really can't say what I think. And the mailer that came out that anyone in District 9 is going to get, I urge you on the very back, look up at the left-hand corner. It'll tell you who it's paid for. It is not paid for by her campaign. It is paid for by the Indiana Democratic Committee. Almost saying, well, this is what she's gonna do if you give her another term. She hasn't done it, but she just needs year 5 and 6 to get it done. Years 1 through 4 and 16 years of government experience, that wasn't enough. Give her another 5 and 6. And then in 2 years, give her another 7 and 8. Or as we heard our commissioner, our sitting commissioner of LaPorte County, who's up for re-election, say in the League of Women Voters Forum, which is on YouTube, I suggest everyone watch it. Government is hard, so hard, and you don't need rookies. You just vote the incumbents. See what she would have said however many years ago when she was a rookie. All right. Is there anything that can be done to lower gas prices at the state level, not the federal, because we're dealing with state, at the state? Or what would you try to do to try to lower gas prices? Because gas prices are wrecking home health care, any type of delivery, any type of staffing. It's destroying everything, raising food prices. So what would you like to do, or what do you think can be done to sort of ease this burden?
Sure. While the initial gut reaction is suspend the gas tax, I don't necessarily believe that full suspension of the gas tax is the way to go. We still need to fund the budget. We still need to fund the roads. We need to fund these things. However, I do believe that an alternate form of gas tax is necessary. As gas prices continue to climb, gas tax is going to continue to climb. It is set at a certain percentage. And so as the prices fluctuate, the gas tax fluctuates. When we pay very little, we pay very sales tax. When we pay a lot like we are now, close to $5 a gallon, we're paying, I think the latest estimate between federal and state was close to 70 cents a gallon in taxes. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. When you're paying that much every time, that's a problem. The user cannot afford this. I know I can't. I mean, and I'm just running around, putting signs up and doing the things that you have to do for a campaign. When you're forth to work every day, especially those who live a little bit further than the office than other people, or like my wife who has to go to meetings all around the area, Lake Porter County, east to South Bend, all over the region. You're filling up, and it hurts. It hurts a lot. I think there are several things we can. Most fundamental of which is just changing the way that the gas tax works in order to have us less at the pump.
What do you think about trying to? We've heard, and I've seen this notoriously historically. LaPorte County has higher gas than Porter County or Lake County. Now, why that is, I personally don't know. Do you think there's anything you could do at the state level to try to figure out what's going on and make it a little bit more even playing field?
I is definitely something that I intend on looking into. I've seen it consistently. Why it is that way, I am not entirely certain. I haven't been able to find any laws or regulations that require LaPorte County to charge more than anywhere else. We were just out today, as a matter of fact, putting signs up. We were in south of Valpo, and it was 415. We come over here, and it's like 447, 450. That's a heck of a jump. Now, 5-10 cents, okay, maybe depending on the where it is, closer to high traffic areas, the law of supply and demand. But a 40-cent increase, that's something's going on. Something's going on. And absolutely, as state rep, I would definitely try to get to the bottom of what's going on there.
Well, I'm going to end with one question, and then I will let you basically do your thing about why we should vote for you. I know why, because I'll say this: when a mailer comes out and says that she listens and she works with people and she cares, she did not care about over 3,000 people. And then she cares about other areas. So I should say she should care about this when she votes to revitalize Gary. Last October, when everything was a shook up with my industry, and she was not the only state rep, I don't care the party, that basically let the ball drop. She wasn't the only one, but she was our state rep. And instead of answering phone calls, both from me, because I was affected, and other families, individuals, other case managers, she let her administrative assistant answer it and then never called anyone back. So this whole, I listen, I care, I work, I can address issues on the state. If she can, she isn't. Okay, so League of Women Voters, again, you were asked about the food desert. Her answer was, send everyone to food banks. Do you understand how food banks work and why you can't send anyone to food banks? And do you have any ideas or plans on what you can do to address the food desert?
Sure. So first, I want to say that I don't truly believe that she understands what we were talking about when we were talking about food deserts. I actually have a friend of mine who he was watching the forum and he was like, food deserts, everything's within 10 minutes away in Michigan City, large, supermarkets and whatnot. I'm like, yes, in a car. If you have access to a car, a food desert isn't really that big of a deal. But if you're on foot, especially on foot, disabled, you can't travel across town to go to Al's. You need something fairly close. Gas stations don't cut it. They don't have fresh produce. They don't have the staples that you need. A food desert is if you have to travel miles to get to fresh food, good food, then you're in a food desert. There are many areas of Michigan are affected by this. When she was asked, my opponent said, we spend she fumbled the number 4 or 5 times. I'm still not entirely sure what number she was trying to convey, but X amount of dollars went to food banks because of the American Rescue Plan. Basically, we can use those. Food banks are not a sustainable issue. They're not a resource that people can rely on every day, every week, over and over. They're fantastic for emergency resources. And don't get me wrong, I love food banks. Love food banks. I've been to them. I've utilized them in times when that has been the only food I have been able to get was at food banks. But that's not the issue. That's not the question. The question is food deserts. These people have money to buy groceries. They just are unable to get to the location to do so. And my answer was, as state rep, we are a representative for the entirety of the community. In this case, District 9. We can leverage that to talk to store owners, CEOs, for ALS and say, look, this particular area, Michigan City, is a food desert. We really need a supermarket here. What can the community do? What can the town do? What can the city do to help facilitate you building here or you expanding here or offering a delivery service? Or there are many, many options available. But if we just go, the only thing I do is when I go to Indy, I vote on bills. That's not your job. Like, it's a tiny part of your job, but that's not the entirety of it. You're there to solve like this. So that was my answer. We can be the liaison. We can be the facilitator of communication between and the resources that those communities need. That's what we need in this area. And I just want to address real quick the mailer that you should get if you're in District 9. Take a look at it. Really, normally I tell you throw that crap away, but I want you to read it because in one area of it, it even specifies people don't feel represented, and we know you don't feel represented. Well, that's funny because that's literally your job to represent us. So you are admitting that you have failed at your job.
Or the will. She will. There's no has. There's no
Right.
is. There's no has been, was doing, is doing. It's will. Almost like that's what we're going to tell her to do, and she's going to do it in year 5 and 6. She runs her platform on social, economic, and environmental justice. Now, I've yet to hear her tell anyone what that means. Then she's going to work bipartisanly. Hasn't happened in 4 years. She's going to work to suspend gas tax. I've never heard her mention that one time, although I've never heard her mention her commitment. And I am not talking about her personally at all. I'm talking about her record as state rep. She's not worked. She has a history of not working bipartisanly on a majority of things. Yes, there has been some, but not as there should, to better District 9. When you vote for Hard Rock Casino and you say, well, Gary needed to be revitalized. Gary has needed to be revitalized. That's where half my family comes from. Yeah. It's going to take a multi level of help on multi different agencies to revitalize Gary. I think it can be done, but Hard Rock's not going to do it. We have a friend who didn't believe in food deserts and just get in your car and drive until he lost his car. He told me the story. I needed a pack of cigarettes, just a pack of cigarettes. Closest place. He lives in a food desert. Economically, he wouldn't qualify for a food bank. He had to walk a mile to the gas station. And it was a humbling moment for him because he's like, I can't imagine doing it with kids. I can't imagine doing it when it's cold out. I can't imagine doing it for groceries. I did it for a couple packs of cigarettes and like a pop. I can't imagine. I grew up in Munster, which could qualify as a food desert based on how far the grocery stores are from a home, especially when I grew up in the 80s and 90s. And there was a time where my mom didn't have a car, so we had to walk 2 miles to the grocery store and carry groceries back. And it's hard. There are other solutions, but it's going to require a multifaceted approach. And for her to believe that Indy is when she works and home is when she doesn't, you're already talking about making another room a bigger office because you're going to need more room for when you're home from Indy to tackle all these issues. You might take my office over. I'm a little worried, but your job doesn't end when you leave Indy. Your job ends when you're no longer in office. So I know these differences. I've seen these differences. I know you and how you will approach this because I've known you for longer than 15 years. I've just been with you for 15 years. And this campaign, when the pre-primary started in August, this has been your main focus, and you're not getting paid to do it. This isn't your job. This has been hours of research and, hey, Liz, look this up for me because I'm looking this up. You've been in Michigan City where you've been in the wealthier places and the poorer places, and you've been on food stamps and you've seen the green NIPSCO bills. She prides herself on living in the same house for 40 some years, which is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But that is you having an insular view of your neighborhood. So that was the last question that we have. If you want to close me out and just tell everyone, early voting has started, absentee voting has started. If you request an absentee ballot in District 9, they're going to get your pretty face on a postcard. Another difference I believe you're doing and your opponent is not is thanking people for voting and letting them know about you. So those are all the questions. If anyone has any more, send them to me. I'll get them answered and I'll send them back to you. But you can do the end of your show thing or whatever you want to talk about, and I'm going to go feed the youngest one dinner.
All right, sounds good.
Bye.
All right, ladies. That was me answering your questions. Again, if you ever have a question that you want me to answer, you can just hop on my show. I haven't been doing it as much recently because I'm telling you, I'm putting forth 100% on this because we need it. We need a representative in District 9 that cares about all of us. I respect the fact that my opponent has certain issues that she is passionate about. The environment, that's great. And I would look, I'm not going to tell you that she's a bad person because I don't think she is. She's a nice lady. But nice doesn't cut it. Nice isn't enough by itself. We've seen this. There are no effective policies that have helped District 9 since she's been in. There are this specifically the industry shakeup that my wife was talking about. It was impossible to get anything done. I got a letter written by her assistant, and that was it. There was nothing. And when my opponent and I were on sound off, she even admitted that her assistant did most of her work. I will be working for you. You can communicate directly with the person that you elect, me. I'd like to get back to doing the videos more often, and maybe I will once this election is over. Hopefully, as your state rep, I'll be able to communicate directly with you about the bills that are currently across my desk, what I'm going to do, how I'm going to vote, why I'm going to vote the way I am. But in summary, you have a choice this election. We can go for what we've had the past 4 years. Is your life better because of the state rep that you have in the last 4 years? That's pretty clear to me. That's really what it's about. For a tiny little thing, I got a new ether cord cable in that I'm going to run. It's got a gold-plated plug. I'm running wirelessly now because the old one that I had, it just wasn't producing the speed that it should for a direct ether connection. So I'm going to run a new cable. We're going to see how it goes. I think there have been a couple of stutters during the video that I saw. I'm hoping you guys didn't have as many problems as I did. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for tuning in. I greatly appreciate your time. And just remember, on or before November 8th, humbly ask for your vote. And I can tell you that I will do everything in my power to improve the quality of life for District 9. Without further ado, God bless you. God bless Indiana, and God bless the United States of America.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers Sean Holgram and Michael Beebe. Copyright 2022. Dion's Daily Dose. All rights reserved.